of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tristler. Chapter 122. Pros Night Out! Part 1. That Sunday, his heart filled with pride was one of the better experiences he'd had when visiting a prison. Sadly, not all visits could or would be as positive. However, there were shifts and changes bubbling up the judiciary system, and overall, things were looking up. That's why when Shigaraki had called out a cheerful, "See you soon," he checked off the same foreboding Tomura had later affirmed with him, and said, "Not if we see you first, Dad." The look on his face had been priceless. But all joking aside, he was hopeful that maybe, just maybe, the old man could alter his perceptions. Todoroki Enji could see the hurt he'd created within his fractured family. That both of them, given time, could repent and look for ways to repair the damage they'd done. Uh-oh, he's wearing that wistful smile again.
All the good can come from this.
Blinking, Ichigo whilst the bear poked at his cheeks. What? Can't I be glad about heading home? Can't I be happy that we've come out of there giggling? He teased. God, have I told you lately just how proud I am of you two, huh? He furthered as they pulled their fingers away from his face and slumped down in their seats to rest with it. Only like every day, Dad. Dabi huffed, his eyes rolling fondly. We're pretty proud of you too, you know. He mused. Nemni's just messaged that she and the other pros damn near fell off their chairs when I texted her what you called Shigaraki before we left. He snickered, the three of them grinning right along with their police escort as Sansa finally drove them through the last checkpoint. I only hope Toshinori will see the lighter side of this, he heard himself murmur, his eyes slipping closed. He's had to deal with so much pain because of that man. Sometimes I wonder if how I approach people, especially people like him, is right. He sighed. I'm just a guy who owns a cafe, you know? He added, his tone a little disgruntled. I hope that I'm doing more good than harm, but sometimes I wonder.
So, I'm going to have to stop you right there.
Tomura cut in, his tone firm yet gentle.
If anyone else gets wind of the self-doubt, then that small army you built is going to be all over you,
he warned, whilst the taller of the two 18-year-olds nodded at him sagely.
At times, I'll be honest with you, I can't get my head around how you can see the goodness in people, let alone how you bring it out in them,
he admitted, his mouth softening.
You're inspirational, in so many ways, he told him. If it hadn't been for you, for Nabi, I could be years, potentially months away from becoming a mass murderer, he reminded. And instead, I'm loved, I create things, I have a life that I want to share with others. And I want to do the same good you seem so conflicted about.
He furthered, his head shaking ruefully.
Weren't you the one who told me that you can't please all of the people all of the time?
He asked. Well, yes.
And doesn't Toshinori love you just as much as you love him,
I suppose you could say that.
Then, sure, it might take him a little while to wrap his head around you trying to redeem and help the hateful old prick I used to call Sensei, but knowing him, he'll see the value in what you're doing, what we're trying to do, won't he?
Sitting up to ruffle the younger man's soft grey locks, Shouta felt his worries melt away. When did you guys become so wise, Personally, I think it's something you bake and cook into everything we eat at the cafe. Nabi supplied helpfully. Or maybe Spinner's right, and that cat-eared bell over the door is full of magic. Yeah, before giving him a playful nudge. It couldn't be that you're just a crazy not-so-old guy, could it? He winked, the teen's right hand wrapping around his own. But all joking aside, I don't want to call another intervention on your well-meaning ass, so just do you, okay? Because we love you. We'll always love you, not for what you've done for us, but because you're who you are. Because you loved, looked after, and listened to us when no one else would. He reasoned. For everything Todoroki has done, for all the misery Shigaraki has caused, well, maybe they wouldn't have if someone had been there to do that for them before they became the monsters that they are. Sorry, that's not very cat dad of me, is it? He smirked. They're not monsters, they're just shitty people, and like you always say, the past can't be changed, but the future can be. He shrugged his turquoise eyes appraising him and the other teen leaning into him. And wouldn't it be just like you to win over one of the greatest forces of evil our country has ever known, and all for one, through talking and pie? He smiled, his words causing Sansa and Tamra to laugh before the cat-headed man coughed, blinked, and turned his eyes back towards the road. I wouldn't be surprised at all, he stated as they turned onto the freeway, Tartarus now an ugly, darkened blotch behind them. The pies the show sensei bakes are too good to miss out on, you know? Getting home was good, but man, it's weird to see the place this quiet, huh? There was that. Yeah, he agreed readily as they walked inside the eatery that was usually rammed with people, chatter, and movement. He could remember a time when he'd relished the quiet, a time when being alone was something he was used to, something he'd craved just to get his shit together. How times had changed, but that didn't mean he couldn't enjoy a little alone time, didn't it? Why, don't let that stop you from going out on your date. He smiled, his eyes turning to the kitchen before flitting in the direction of the cat enclosure. You two deserve it, he added. Go paint Tokyo red in your suits for me, all right? And don't worry about coming home early because Hitoshi is sleeping over with Nato and Shoto, okay? He reminded fondly, his hands clapping them both on the shoulder before he ushered the pair upstairs to grab their rail passes and anything else they'd need for a fun-filled afternoon and evening just for them.
You want anything bringing back from the capital?
The decayed quirk user asked as they made their way towards their shared apartment. Just the both of you, safely, when you're ready. He grinned. And, as for me, I'm going to take off this ridiculously pricey outfit, hang out with the cats, and then get a head start on tomorrow's food orders. He told them, their shoes shucked off in the genkan. Speaking of food, do you have enough money to eat while you're out? We're fine, thank you. Dabby chuckled, his eyes rolling fondly. Didn't we tell you to spend a little on yourself, Show? Isn't there any place you want to go or anything you want to do while you have an afternoon free of our community clinging to your coattails? He hummed, his right brow cogging. Well, I suppose I could run a few more orders through the Smart Hill or tidy up the pantry. Some of the jars are in the wrong order and... Oh, bad robot cat man! The scarred youth moaned before comedically stomping towards the room he and Tomer shared. Why am I not surprised? He huffed and groaned while disappearing into the chamber whilst he and the younger teen shared a grin.
You have fun with the first smells, Show,
the decayed quirk user told him whilst patting him on the back.
But have a think about it, will you? About something you'd like to do?
He added, their eyes lacking.
You take care of everyone else. You should really value yourself just as highly, you know?
Sitting in the calm, relaxing quiet of the cat enclosure, his lap occupied by a sneezing Hachwe, Shouta hummed quietly to himself whilst taking in the stencils his kids and the pros had applied to the expensive, colorful area filled with the shelving-based catwalks he'd fixed to the walls, multiple climbing frames, beds, and the plush, water-resistant furnishings for the customers to use. Some days, he truly couldn't believe how far they'd come, how entrenched in the area his Noraneko Cafe had become, how many strays he'd picked up along the way. Thinking back to his 8-year-old self on that terrible, awful Tuesday morning as social services descended upon him, backed him up and shipped him off to the care center like so much unwanted rubbish, he never would have believed, not in a million years, that he'd end up being so fortunate. So happy he... A message is here! A message is here! A message is here! And speaking of someone who made him happy, rolling his eyes and soothing, Hachwe Shouta picked up his cell, unlocked the screen, and regarded the message. Yagi Toshinori. Kitten, I, may have let the pro-hero cat out of the secret bag. Blinking. Why was he not surprised? He stared at the innocent statement whilst a whirlwind of thoughts assailed him. I'm a bad bitch. I'm a bad bitch. Midnight. Shut up! This is amazing news! You have to sign up with the agency and I'll help you put together your hero outfit. You're gonna look so sexy! I can even handle it! You can picture the scene now. The local pros have been training with his lover this afternoon to work up an appetite for when they all went to a new restaurant Toshinori was the official sponsor of. His friends had decided that they wanted to thoroughly take advantage of the all-you-can-eat buffet to ensure it lived up to their senpai's legendary status. Danger mouse, dra dra dra, danger mouse, dra dra dra, danger mouse. Nezo.
Shouta-kun, you're going to love the Pro Hero course I've thought up for you. Atsuhiro-kun has told me that you want to get married first, which is fine, but Have you seen the costs for flights to Yakushima lately? I think these are the best prices I've seen, so why not get hitched next week or something?
This, of course, will have led to after-training banter within the huge gymnasium his partner had near the docks. Banter, where he was a favorite topic of discussion, and knowing how excited his lover was about him finally relenting on the whole pro area.
Put your hands up, radio! Put your hands up, radio!
Yamada Hisashi.
Oh, show! I'm so happy, man! Have you thought about your hero name yet? I have a great one in mind for ya!
He could see them all in his mind's eye, collapsed within the expansive area dotted with obstacles, fighting robots, and empty water bottles, when his fiancé got to talking, and the whole story had just rushed out of him. Chala, hirakuku mono tatune flag away.
Obaro.
Has Hisashi told you the hero name he's got for you yet? It's an amazing show. You've got to use it. No one will take you seriously if you go with Cat Dad, and Tomo-chan, Jintan, Azuhiro, and Chizome are all wrestling with Toshi-senpai right now because he wants you to have a name that links you just to him. Mirai has taken his phone, thank God, because that's beyond not fair. Dude, we met and inspired you first, didn't we?
A story that was no doubt rushing around the community members like wildfire.
It was a good job he'd talked to his teens and tots about his decision well before today, wasn't it?
Not that he minded, not at all.
He'd been trying to think of the best time to share the news, and considering all of them would be together this evening, well, he supposed it was better to get all of this excitement out of the way now, wasn't it? Aizawa Shouta. Okay, Hisashi, let's hear it. He wrote in the adults-only group chat, his smile small and fond. Yamada Hisashi.
Whoa! Really? Okay! Check this!
The spirited blonde typed as everyone else appeared online in the app they used.
How does Eraserhead sound, huh?
Blinking, his head cocking to one side, he looked down at Hahue and hummed. Eraserhead. Huh. He breathed into the relative quiet of the room. He couldn't argue that rationally it made sense. His quirk emitted from his eyes, and his hair stood up on his head, didn't it? Aizawa Shouta. You know what? I think that's a great fit. Thank you, Hisashi. He wrote before a laugh bubbling up and out of him. His phone was flooded by all manner of messages. Yagito Shinori. Sweetheart, doesn't old side or minimite sound good as well?
Jindan.
No, show boss, none for y'all is the more logical choice.
Chizomi. Jindan, you're my boyfriend and I love you, but your boss has spoken. We don't need any more of your inspired choices, okay?
Tomoko.
What? Chizomi, are you still better over Jindan suggesting your hero name be stained, eh?
Serenade.
Tomoko-san, I'm surprised that you went in favor of Cat Dad. I still think it's a perfectly valid pro-alias.
Atsuhiro. Darling, really? Condescending. Surely you can see that my suggestion of kitten whiskers in English would be adorable, right? I can't believe that no one voted for that. Snickered to himself as the chat continued to escalate. Shouta shook his head and put the device to one side in favor of helping the 3 cats he was hosting in his crossed legs to get comfortable, his arms gently scooping Gigi up to cradle at his chest so that Homura and Hahue could settle with Hotaru and Hiro, the black juveniles crowding on the grumbling Siamese's back, whilst their mother yawned. Such good people and such good friends. As 1700 rolled around, Shouta was stood in his bedroom. This wasn't the first time he'd been supporting his lover in the opening of something or another, and yet, as he stared at his meager wardrobe, he couldn't help himself sighing. Sometimes he felt awful about choosing to keep their relationship from the public, because he wanted to openly support the sun-kissed blonde and never let his agency or stakeholders down. Who signed autographs even when he was bleeding after a battle, or smiled and visited sick children in the hospital whenever he could, who gave to charities without caring about his bank balance, but he didn't want the cafe overrun with journalists and fanatics. He wanted the blonde to have his peace, his solace within the Noranako and its community. Plus, when they'd become more serious a year ago, they'd sat down with All Might's extensive PR team, and they'd all agreed with him being in the background would be better. All Might being single, his sexuality, who he was dating, and how serious they were, anyone's guess, was good for business. Was good for publicity, and until the man was ready to retire, he'd made his peace with that. It was for the best overall. So why, as he stared at the 2 outfits he'd singled out, did he feel as though he was letting his future husband down? It was hard for him to be fashionable. If any journalist did get wind of their relationship, they'd probably take one look at him and write such rumors off. That was probably for the best, too. God, how does he cope with all of those gala parties and black tie events? He muttered to himself before grabbing his older suit and shoving it back into the wardrobe, his dark gaze then resting on the other outfit he'd somehow mangled together. The restaurant was peddling itself as an upmarket buffet with a nightclub attachment, so would this do? It's not like I'll be seen by any of the cameras anyway, is it? He huffed before throwing it onto his futon, checking his phone, and heading to the closest bathroom. For better or worse, he was once again braving a place filled with people, cameras, and social obligations for the sake of his lover and their friends. It was a small price to pay for being loved so much, wasn't it?